Welcome to the 8th chapter of the book of 2nd Chronicles. This chapter will be going through a map and a lot of places that are mentioned. It begins, "And it came to pass after 20 years, in which Solomon built the house of the Lord and his house," the forest of the cedars of Lebanon is the name of his house. And so now 20 years have passed, and we see what's happening, and that the cities which Hiram gave to Solomon, Solomon built them up, and he settled there the sons of Israel. So David and Solomon have the power, and they go up into Lebanon, parts of Syria, conquer it, and make friends with Hiram, the king of Tyre, and receive cities. I'm not exactly sure, trading for goods and so forth, possibly. Doesn't believe it mentions that they took them by force. And Solomon came unto Hamath Zobah and prevailed over it. Now we'll go to a map here, and we'll see Hamath is way up here, almost to the Euphrates River, and Tadmor, we'll mention, is Palmyra, is there. There's way up north, way further north than Damascus, up in Syria. The Hittites are up here, and that's what's considered Armenia. And then down below, we have down in here we have Elath. And Elath, I had to move the camera. Elath is right by Ezion Geber. They're right next to each other. And then Beth Horon and Baal Lath, the upper and lower, they're right close to in between Jerusalem and Joppa. Go back to our text. And he built Tadmor as Palmyra in the wilderness, and it has recently been devastated by ISIS, the Muslim caliphate that's failing, but they destroyed a lot of the things of Tadmor, Palmyra, and all the fortified cities which he built in Hamath, and that was up north, so he's way out of what's modern-day Israel territory. And he built, as Solomon, upper Beth Horon and lower Beth Horon. They're fairly close to each other, a little northwest of Jerusalem. They're fortified cities with walls, gates, and bars. So these became strongholds of Solomon and his army, which was made up of the Jewish people. And Baalath, which was close to Beth Horon, a little bit lower, I believe, further south, and all the fortified cities which were unto Solomon, and all the cities of the chariots, and the cities of the horsemen, as much as Solomon desired. Now, the mention of the chariots and the horsemen, you would say, well, that's good. Israel has all these armaments, the chariots and everything, but actually in Deuteronomy 17:16, the Lord said, furthermore, the king is talking about, he shall not multiply to himself a cavalry, nor shall he return the people to Egypt, so that he should not multiply to himself a cavalry. God wanted to do the protecting and be the one that is known as the one that protects Israel. If the people do wrong and they go to war and they don't have the Lord and they're depending on their cavalry, well, their armaments, then, whether God helps them or not is up to God, but they are not doing. A lot of times they're not putting their faith and their belief in God, but their armaments, their tanks, and so forth, airplanes, according to the desire to build Jerusalem. So God did all these things. And in Lebanon, which is up north of Israel, and in all the land of his authority, which we see going up to the Euphrates River. All the people left behind from the Hittite, and they were up the northernmost, almost into Greece, Turkey today, Armenia, the Amorite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. All these people who are not from out of Israel, but were from out of their sons being left behind after them in the land of which the sons of Israel did not utterly destroy. Even Solomon led them into tribute unto this day. So all these people that were there in Israel that weren't Jews, then they had to pay some sort of a tax. And Solomon did not appoint from out of the sons of Israel as servants for all his works in his kingdom, and even building the temple, as we mentioned. We were back in the 2 chapters ago, that the people were all immigrants, or people that were left behind of these unconquered non-Jewish people. They did the work, the servitude work. And today we sort of see the same thing, where the Palestinians do a lot of the service work for the nation of Israel, work in the farms and the vineyards and the grape, the fruit producing areas, and so forth. For they were mighty warriors, and that's the Jews, and rulers, and mighty men, and rulers of his chariots and of his horsemen. So this was all the Jews that were in control of the country, and they did all. They were the military. And these rulers of the superintendents of King Solomon were Penteconta, 50, that we have the Pentecost. That's the derivatives from that. So a lot of derivatives here. Archon, a ruler, armaments, Epon, Epil, Hippo, hippopotamus, a horse, Basilios, basil plant. And Solomon led the daughter of Pharaoh from out of the city of David into the house which he built for her. Now, here's a transliteration almost, Thegater instead of daughter, Thegater. So he led the wife of Pharaoh, so he married an Egyptian woman, made her somewhat of a queen, I suppose. For he said, "My wife shall not dwell in the city of David, the king of Israel, for it is holy." Well, now, it's sort of hypocritical, because here he won't allow any non-Jews to be in the army. They had to do all this servitude work, but then he goes out and takes a non-Jew for a wife. This is the beginning of the downfall of Israel, until it's finally wiped out by Nebuchadnezzar. And we'll see here what the things that David did. And for it is holy, Jerusalem, because the ark of the Lord entered there. Then Solomon offered whole burnt offerings to the Lord upon the altar of the Lord, which he built before the temple, according to the reckoning, day by day, to offer according to the commandments of Moses. In the Sabbaths, Sabbatis is the transliteration, and in the months and in the holidays, 3 times during the year, in the holiday of the unleavened breads, and in the holiday of the periods of sevens, and in the holiday of the tenths. And he established, according to the ordinance of David, his patros, the divisions of the priests according to their ministrations. And we see Zacharias in Luke, where his ministration, his course is of Abiah. The name of this division is called Abiah. And so they were named these different divisions. And so the priests, according to their ministrations, and of the Levites over their watches, to praise and to liturgine before the Iareon, liturgy, to officiate before the priests, according to the reckoning, day by day, and of the gatekeepers in their divisions, for gate by gate. For thus was the commandment of David, the man of God. So we had people in these divisions doing the things in the temple, and then doing things in Jerusalem, being by the gates, and watching who's coming and going Now I'm not exact. The gates could be the gates of the temple or the gates of Jerusalem. It doesn't say, but could be both. Could be one or the other. And they did not go by without heeding the commandments of the king concerning the priests and the Levites in any matter, and in the treasury. So at this time, the people that were in charge did everything according to the law of Moses that law was given to the Jews on Mount Sinai. And all the work of Solomon was prepared, from which day the house of the Lord's foundation was laid. So all these things were now put into practice from the teachings of David, what they should do. And until of which time it was finished, until of which time Solomon finished the house of the Lord. Then Solomon set out unto Ezion-Geber. Now that was, if you remember on that map, down by was that the Red Sea? Let's go back to the map. So it's way down here at the bottom, Ezion-Geber, where the Red Sea, it goes up the Gulf. This is called the Gulf of Aqaba. Elath and Ezion-Geber are right next to each other. And so this is what it's talking about here. And he set out unto Ezion-Geber and unto Elath by the sea in the land of Edom. If you look on that map, you'll see that to the right there, actually Elath was in Edom. And Hiram, the king of Tyre, sent by the hand of his servants boats, and servants knowing the sea. And they set out with servants of Solomon to Ophir and Sophira in Greek, and took from there 450 talents of gold, and brought them to King Solomon. Now, where this Ophir is, it's not really sure. No one really knows. I looked up Sophira in the geography of Strabo, who wrote at the time of Jesus, and it doesn't mention any place with this name. So we don't know, but wherever it was, it had a lot of gold. Next, chapter 9, we'll go into the famous chapter of the Queen of Sheba visiting Solomon. Hope you'll join us in chapter 9, and God bless.